Okay, so today we're going to unpack one of the most dramatic, really startling economic collapses in modern history. This is the story of how a country with just an unbelievable amount of wealth could descend into a crisis that has now impacted millions and millions of lives. And that's the central question, isn't it? It feels like a paradox. How does a nation sitting on the world's largest oil reserves, a country that was once the richest in all of South America, end up in a state of total, absolute collapse? To really understand the collapse, we have to start with the good times. We have to start with the boom. For decades, Venezuela was fueled by a sea of oil. It wasn't just stable, it was a titan of South America. And this, right here, is the key to everything. We're not talking about just some oil. We're talking about the largest proven reserves on the entire planet. For most of the 20th century, this black gold, as they call it, powered a really thriving, modern economy. This slide really paints the picture, doesn't it? It's like two different countries. On the left, you've got the past, a nation so rich from oil it could fund these massive social programs and was seen as a continental powerhouse. Then you look to the right, and you see the present, a humanitarian crisis. We're talking millions in poverty, empty shelves, food shortages. So how in the world did the country get from one side to the other? Well, that journey really began with a huge political shift. In the late 90s, Venezuela took a very sharp ideological turn, and it embarked on this bold and, pretty controversial experiment. The man who really kicked off this change was Hugo Chavez. He was this incredibly charismatic, hugely popular leader, and he came to power with a very powerful promise: to use the nation's immense oil wealth to finally lift up the poor. And to do that, the government basically took the driver's seat of the economy. It took control of the all-important oil industry, it nationalized a whole bunch of other private businesses, and it put strict price controls on everyday goods. The stated goal for all of this? To redirect all that wealth to the people. But what started as this ambitious plan to help the poor, well, it pretty soon ran into a series of just devastating problems that would send the entire economy into an uncontrollable downward spiral. So the economy really started to rot from the inside out. Those state-run companies, they were riddled with mismanagement. You had rampant corruption siphoning off billions of dollars. And this is the big one, the country completely failed to diversify. It bet its entire future on just one thing: oil. And this just created the absolute perfect storm. So you have these new policies in place, but then in 2014, the one pillar holding the whole thing up, high oil prices, it cracked, and then it completely collapsed. And as the crisis got worse, international sanctions, especially from the US, started to intensify and isolate the country even more. And that, right there, was the fatal flaw. When the price of oil tanked, the government's main source of income just vanished. Poof. And with no other real industries to fall back on, the country was left with absolutely no safety net. So what does the government do when it's out of cash? Well, it tried to solve its money problem by just printing more of it, a lot more. And this led to one of the worst cases of hyperinflation in modern history. What that means is the money in people's pockets just became worth less and less, faster and faster, every single day. It got so bad that a whole month's salary could barely buy you a carton of eggs. People were literally carrying cash around in backpacks just to buy basic groceries. The very foundation of daily life, earning a living. It had been totally destroyed. And look, this wasn't just some abstract economic theory or numbers on a chart. This collapse had a devastating and very, very real impact on the lives of ordinary Venezuelans. After Chavez's death, his successor, Nicolas Maduro, came into power. And as he continued with the same policies, that spiraling crisis became a full-blown humanitarian catastrophe. The results were just grim. Supermarket shelves went empty. Hospitals completely ran out of basic supplies like antibiotics and even bandages. Jobs just disappeared. And millions of people, they made the desperate decision to flee their own home country, creating one of the largest migration crises in the world. So when you look at the whole picture, Venezuela's story is more than just a national tragedy. It's a really powerful cautionary tale with lessons that apply to the entire world. And the first and maybe the most painful lesson is this: having a ton of natural wealth is absolutely no guarantee of success. In fact, if you don't manage it right, it can actually become a curse.
See, the real wealth of a nation isn't what's buried in the ground. It's built on things like strong institutions, smart economic policies, and a government that's actually accountable to its people. That's what really matters.
And in the end, Venezuela's story really forces all of us to ask a big question. What is the true foundation of a nation's wealth? Is it the resources that are under our feet, or is it something else? The systems we build, the decisions we make, and the trust we place in one another. It's something to think about.